Now to pick apart the most significant shake-up of the Reserve Bank in several decades, I was joined a short time ago by the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers.
Well, thanks, Kieran. I think one of the most important recommendations of the 51 specific recommendations in this absolutely first-class review that we've been handed is to separate the making of decisions around monetary policy, around interest rates, from the broader management and governance of the Reserve Bank itself. And what that means is you can have quite a specialist expert monetary policy board chaired by the Governor at the same time as you can have people with substantial governance and leadership experience on the governance board at the same time. And because we've had this one board for so long now, which has had to perform both of those roles, it gets harder to make sure that we've got the right amount of experience and different kinds of experience on the one board. So I think this change is really important.
Another change is the greater focus on full employment. It's clearer that there be given equal weight to the aim of full employment plus price stability / inflation effectively. In practice, is it fair to say there's been more focus on inflation in the past? And is this a nudge in the direction of an RBA that might be more careful or cautious on the impact on the economy and particularly the labour market?
I think what the review does a really good job of doing is clarifying that the relationship between dealing with inflation and promoting full employment are of roughly equal weight. You know, and these objectives have been central to the Reserve Bank's objectives in the past. But what the review does is really clarify that under the overarching objective of the welfare of the Australian people and growing the economy the right way and all of those sorts of important things. Full employment and price stability are the two things that board members into the future will grapple with as they make these really important decisions.
When you appointed the former head of the Fair Work Commission today to the RBA, Ian Ross, you said there's probably nobody better placed to understand the importance of the macroeconomy in relation to the wages and living standards of ordinary working people. Does that reflect an assessment from you that the RBA board has not sufficiently been cognizant of the impact on average workers?
Well, I'm reluctant to take shots at boards of the past, but it's been clearly a priority of mine for some time whenever I've been asked about this. To see if we can make the board a bit more representative, both in terms of the kind of expertise that people bring to decision making, but also the type of experience that they've had. And Ian Ross is really quite an extraordinary Australian, and he's someone that I'm really proud to appoint to the Reserve Bank board because he has had such long experience of understanding and grappling with the relationship between the performance of the economy broadly and what that actually means for ordinary working people in this country. And so he's someone I'm very pleased has agreed to go on the board. He's a first-class mind with a heap of experience and expertise, and I think he'll make, along with Alana Rubin, quite a remarkable, terrific contribution to the board going forward.
So we've got that sort of structural shift that we've already spoken about. Another important one that jumped out at me from the report is this sort of public-facing changes, the fact that there's going to be 8 meetings as opposed to 11, but particularly a news conference mandatory after every decision made. Have central banks, not just the RBA, but central banks more broadly, traditionally been just too guarded when it comes to their deliberations?
Well, our objective here is to make the Reserve Bank more transparent, more independent, and rely on more expertise to take its important decisions. And part of that is making sure that these decisions, which are taken independently, and what we're proposing today will make the bank more independent rather than less, is they need to have a structured opportunity to explain and defend those decisions. And they exist at the moment. The Reserve Bank Governor does provide public commentary and has tried to explain and in some cases defend decisions taken by the Reserve Bank Board. But what the recommendations today are all about is making that more structured, whether it's a press conference after a decision has been taken, whether it's a broader contribution of board members to the public conversation about the economy and about interest rates within that. I think these are important ways of clarifying and structuring the type of transparency and accountability that we want to see in the Reserve Bank Board and the Governor.
A lot of viewers today might be wondering, how did the RBA get it so wrong in terms of that forward guidance during COVID? Is there any light shed on that?
Well, obviously that's a very contentious thing, but as you know, Kieran, you and I have been talking about these issues for some time, and I don't take pot shots at the Governor or the Board or try and second-guess decisions or comments that they've made. I cherish the independence of the Reserve Bank, and I take it really seriously and my role seriously, and I don't want to get into that. What the review panel have done is they have provided an assessment of recent decisions which have been taken, but that's not the overwhelming focus of the report. The overwhelming focus of the report is not about one decision, one set of decisions, one set of commentary or analysis. It's about how we ensure the best combination of structures and processes and independence and expertise so that we can learn from the past and strengthen the Reserve Bank into the future. That's the overwhelming focus of the absolutely first-class work that the review panel have handed to the government, and that's why the government intends to support, or does support, in principle, all 51 recommendations. They've come at these recommendations in a really considered way. Part of that has been analysing the past, but only in order to build on the success of the bank in the past, to learn from some of these contentious decisions and commentary that has been provided, and to strengthen the bank into the future.
You've said that you want to consider Governor Lowe's tenure along with the Cabinet later in the year, mid-year, I think you said, ahead of his September wrap-up of his current contract. Is he really still in the mix for the next RBA Governor?
Yes, the government hasn't taken a concluded view on the Governor's appointment. In the normal course of events, an appointment that comes up in September would be considered by myself and the Cabinet, the Prime Minister, closer to the middle of the year, and that's our intention. Now, we've always said, or we've said particularly over the course of recent months, that we wanted to release the RBA review and the government's initial views on that review and its recommendations, and then contemplate the role of Governor somewhere closer to the middle of the year. Nothing has changed in that position. We will do it in the usual consultative, collaborative way. I care deeply about the view of my Cabinet colleagues, and obviously especially the Prime Minister, as we make what will be a really important appointment, whether it's the reappointment of Governor Lowe or choosing somebody else. We will do the work to come to a concluded view closer to the middle of the year.